A single clove might seem too ordinary to change anything, but place 3 of them in the right spot, and the entire energy of your space begins to shift. Not because you have cast a spell, but because you've given your environment a new instruction. In ancient space design systems like Feng Shui, it's not always about grand renovations or expensive objects. Sometimes it's about how you arrange the smallest symbols to communicate a specific frequency, especially around wealth. Today, we're going to talk about cloves. Yes, that tiny fragrant spice in your kitchen, but not for cooking. When used with precision, cloves act like a silent architect for your money energy, helping move what's stuck, stabilizing what feels scattered, and calling in the kind of circulation your financial life may be missing. This isn't a hack. It's not superstition either. It's environmental alignment. And it works because everything in your space is already speaking to your subconscious. You just have to decide what message you want it to send. Welcome back to New Day Mindfulness, where we don't teach magic, we teach intention through structure. In this video, you'll discover 3 simple but strategic ways to use whole cloves to shift the energy around your finances. These aren't random tips. They're placements rooted in energetic logic, locations in your home or personal field that are already influencing how wealth flows toward you or away from you. You'll learn exactly where to put them, why placement matters, and how to combine them with simple design cues to amplify results. Along the way, I'll share one powerful story of a global icon, someone whose net worth exceeds $500 million, who used a symbolic placement technique remarkably similar to what we'll discuss today. No candles, no chanting, just clarity and design. Because when you align your environment, your energy starts to follow. And when your energy follows structure, momentum begins. Let's make one thing clear before we start. This isn't about belief. You don't have to believe in luck, energy, or the universe. You just need to understand that the spaces you live and work in are shaping your behavior constantly. The drawer where you toss old receipts, the corner of your wallet stuffed with expired cards, the shelf you never touch that happens to sit in your home's wealth corner. All of these spaces are speaking, and cloves placed intentionally act as small signals to reprogram those spaces. They restore direction. They represent warmth, flow, value. And when you use them strategically, they become part of a silent but powerful framework that supports financial growth. Not emotionally, but energetically. The changes that follow may seem subtle at first: clearer thinking, unexpected opportunities, fewer repeated setbacks. But over time, these signals accumulate. They reinforce a different relationship with money, one that's no longer based on reaction, but intention. But before we dive into the how, where, and why, let me ask you a small favor. If this kind of content speaks to you, grounded, symbol-rich, and built on clarity rather than hype, then I invite you to support this channel with just one click. Give this video a like so it reaches more people who may need it. Share it with someone whose energy feels stuck right now. And if you haven't already, subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. We're growing steadily toward 2,000 followers, and your support helps make it possible for me to keep sharing more deeply researched, quietly powerful practices with you. No fluff, just grounded tools that help you realign your space with the life you actually want to build. All right, now that we've set the tone, let's begin. 3 cloves, 3 placements, 1 new financial frequency. Let's map it out. Placement 1, the grounding point. In every home, there is a threshold where energy first makes contact with your living space. This point, whether it's a front entrance, a foyer, or even just the area inside your main door, acts as the mouth of qi, the entry point through which environmental forces enter, settle, and circulate. In Feng Shui, this zone is not simply decorative, it's directive. It determines how your space receives opportunity, support, and prosperity. That's why the first and arguably most important placement for the clove ritual involves this exact location. When you place 3 high-quality intact cloves on a small plate, preferably ceramic or wood, never metal or plastic, on the far right side of your entrance space or personal altar, you are doing more than setting down a spice. You are delivering an instruction to the energy field of your home. Welcome circulation, activate flow, neutralize stagnation. Cloves, unlike many symbolic objects, carry both scent and structure. They are warming by nature, pungent but refined. Their physical shape, tight-pointed buds that resemble nails or pins, symbolize focus and grounding. They hold the energy of upward expansion, stabilized by anchored roots. This dual dynamic makes them ideal for the entrance area of a home, which often becomes a chaotic blend of rushed arrivals, incoming stress, or lingering clutter. Placing the cloves at this point is not random. It targets the first layer of energy contact, that moment when you cross the threshold after a long day or open the door to receive guests. Those are energy transitions, and the cloves support them with quiet precision. But placement without timing is incomplete. You don't drop cloves on a plate in the middle of a hectic day and expect results. Timing matters, not because of mysticism, but because of rhythm. The most effective moments for initiating this ritual are when energy is already inclined toward growth. During a waxing moon, on the first day of a new month, or directly after thoroughly cleaning your entrance zone. These periods support accumulation and movement. If the entrance is dusty, cluttered, or chaotic, any object placed there, even if symbolically rich, will sit in resistance rather than activation. So the first rule is always this: cleanse before you charge. And when you do place the cloves, do so with stillness. Stand facing the plate. Don't mutter. Don't hope. Speak. Declare. This is not a wish. It's a directional command. Something as simple as, let clear energy move freely through my space. Let stagnant patterns dissolve. It is enough to reorient the signal your entrance sends to the surrounding environment. The material of the plate matters too. A natural ceramic dish or a simple piece of carved wood provides an energetically neutral base, solid enough to hold the signal, but not reactive. Avoid plastic as it carries residual manufacturing energy and tends to hold static. Metal may amplify sharpness, which is not ideal for this grounding placement. The goal here is not stimulation, it's receptivity. The cloves should sit like quiet guardians, not triggers. And once placed, they are not to be disturbed, picked up, or moved repeatedly. Their presence should become part of the space's identity, not a curiosity to fidget with. You may choose to elevate this setup by incorporating fine sea salt on the plate, a combination that blends the absorbing quality of salt with the activating warmth of cloves. This duo functions as both a filter and a charger. Salt absorbs heavy or disorganized energy. Cloves push the renewed current forward. However, the salt must be replaced every 7 to 9 days. No exceptions. Just as you would not use dirty water to cleanse a wound, you should not allow absorbed energy to sit beyond its expiration. When disposing of the salt, never flush it or toss it in a kitchen trash bin. Instead, wrap it in paper and discard it outside your home, preferably into natural soil or a trash receptacle at a distance from your living area. It's important to clarify that none of this is about calling in luck in the way people often mean it. This is not about sudden windfalls or hoping the universe drops gold at your feet. It's about order. It's about creating a spatial invitation to momentum. Stagnant energy collects most easily at entrance points. That's why people who are otherwise diligent may still experience stuckness if their doorway is a dead zone. The ritual with the cloves reactivates that portal, turning it from a passive boundary into an active signal tower. If your doorway has felt heavy, cluttered, or dull, this method helps to shift that condition, not through force, but through frequency. You are not demanding wealth. You are restoring circulation. Pay attention to how the cloves themselves respond. Over time, they may begin to dry out unevenly, lose scent, or change color. These signs are not to be feared. They are information. They tell you when the energy is ready to be refreshed. A fresh set of cloves can be placed in a new ritual moment, ideally aligned with either your own internal reset, after a big decision, financial milestone, or period of stress, or with an external marker, new moon, new season, beginning of a work cycle. If the cloves begin to mold or turn soft, it indicates either poor quality to begin with or environmental imbalance, too much humidity, poor airflow, unresolved energetic compression. In this case, discard them immediately and inspect your entryway with fresh eyes. The cloves are messengers. Treat them as such. Some homeowners choose to add a short written intention beneath the plate, just a small slip of paper with a phrase like circulation, clarity, growth. This is optional but effective. Like placing coordinates on a map, it refines the signal. It also creates a layered field of instruction: scent, material, shape, and word. These layers work together to reinforce the field you're cultivating. This isn't superstition, it's layered design. Lastly, don't overlook how people respond when they enter your home. Energy doesn't just affect your financial life, it affects how others relate to you, how they perceive your space, how they behave inside it. If after beginning this placement, you notice guests comment that your home feels calmer or more open, that's confirmation. If you yourself find that your thoughts slow down when you cross the threshold, that's evidence. When you begin to wake up with a clearer mind or new opportunities seem to arrive through conversations you didn't expect, that's not luck. That's alignment expressing itself through the architecture of daily experience. The 3-clove placement at your entrance is not about decorating your way to abundance. It's about curating the first impression your space gives to the energy field around you. It's about placing intention where it counts most, at the beginning. And when that beginning is clear, supportive, and grounded, the rest of your environment starts to mirror that clarity. Not all change begins inside your mind. Some of it begins exactly where you step in. The door opens, and energy listens. The cloves don't whisper superstition. They broadcast structure. And structure is where sustainable wealth begins. Placement 2, the anchoring point. There is a silent agreement that exists between you and the place where you keep your money. Whether it's a drawer filled with envelopes and savings documents, a locked safe, or a cabinet with your emergency cash and investment statements, that space is more than just a storage unit. It's an energetic reflection of how you relate to your financial stability. And just like any other part of your home, it broadcasts a signal. That signal can be strong or weak, scattered or anchored, intentional or accidental. Using 3 whole cloves tucked inside a clean red or brown fabric pouch and placing it deeply into this designated space is a subtle but powerful way to strengthen that signal. This practice isn't about superstition. It's about creating energetic coherence inside the one place in your environment that mirrors your financial posture. Cloves, by their nature, symbolize warmth, circulation, and vitality. Their structure, intact, pointed, fragrant, represents concentration and potential. When contained within a pouch of earth tone or fire tone fabric, particularly red or brown, their symbolic meaning is magnified. Red for vitality and protection, brown for groundedness and long-term focus. Combined, they create a field that shields and supports. The drawer or safe becomes more than a storage box. It becomes a message. This is where I stabilize what matters. And in Feng Shui logic, Stabilizing wealth begins by treating money not as currency, but as energy. Energy, when mixed with clutter, devalues. When mixed with clarity, it multiplies. That's why the first step in this practice has nothing to do with cloves at all. It begins with elimination. Open your wealth drawers and clear it. Remove old receipts, expired coupons, broken rubber bands, stray coins, unrelated paperwork, dried flowers, or any object that feels like it doesn't belong in a place of financial integrity. These items hold friction. They interfere with the clarity of signal, and financial energy, much like water, resists confusion. Once the space is clean, physically and visually, it is ready to hold intention. Prepare your cloves carefully. They must be unbroken, firm, fragrant. Cloves that are cracked, moldy, soft, or faded in scent will not carry the same signal. The pouch you place them in should be breathable, natural fabric, preferably cotton or linen. Avoid synthetic materials or plastics which retain ambient noise. Tuck the pouch at the back or corner of your drawer, ideally where it won't be disturbed daily. This pouch is not meant to sit on top of your cash or between bank cards. It is not part of transaction. It is part of structure. Keep it away from active financial handling. Its job is to stabilize, not circulate. For those who wish to elevate the practice further, an optional enhancer can be added: a symbolic gold coin or a clean, high-denomination bill folded respectfully. Not crumpled, not jammed into the pouch, but placed with care. This object serves as an anchor for scale. It says, "I know the value of this space. I give it weight. I am not hiding money here. I am defining its place." And when you define a place for something, you increase its readiness to expand. If you can associate that bill with a milestone, perhaps your first major payment, a client invoice, a memorable sale, it becomes a touchstone of earned energy. Don't mix multiple denominations. Choose one and let that be the energetic representation of value held. Now comes the part people most often overlook. After placing the pouch, pause. Don't just close the drawer. Stand in front of it and acknowledge the act. This is not about belief, it's about imprinting. Your subconscious listens when your attention sharpens. Say something, say it clearly. What I value is protected. What I protect begins to grow. This phrase, or one with similar structure, does not invoke magic. It invokes focus. It tells your inner mind, this drawer holds direction, not randomness. This space is not forgotten. It is a vessel. Over time, your relationship with this drawer will change. It will become more orderly, not by force, but because you begin to treat it with greater respect. You may find yourself removing excess. You may begin to pause before tossing in receipts or foreign objects. That's not ritual, that's resonance. When a space is energetically tuned, your behavior shifts without needing discipline. And that shift extends outward. You begin to track money with more ease. You remember what you have earned. You begin to feel less frantic when dealing with financial tasks, not because life changed, but because the container you use to represent money has changed its frequency. It feels aligned. Cloves in this context are not talismans. They are stabilizers. They ground the frequency of potential. Their scent signals presence. Their structure reinforces containment. And their placement in a fabric pouch adds softness, warmth, and continuity. But they are not permanent. Just like intention, their energy fades over time. That's why it's critical to replace them every 10 to 14 days. When you do so deliberately. Open the pouch, discard the old cloves outside your home, not in your kitchen bin, and refill with fresh ones. Use the change as a cue to revisit your space. Is the drawer still clean? Has it been invaded by randomness again? What does this say about how you're managing energy elsewhere? Some viewers may wonder, why go to this much trouble for a drawer? The answer is simple. Wealth is not a number, it's a relationship. And like all relationships, it responds to the way you care for it. If your money lives in a space that is neglected, confused, or tangled, then your relationship with money will reflect that. If your money lives in a space that is stable, respected, and aligned, that too will reflect in your decisions, your habits, and your outcomes. The clove pouch is not about attracting wealth. It's about holding it, anchoring it, telling it that this space, this drawer, this safe, this cabinet is ready to do more than store. It's ready to support, and support requires boundaries. That's why it's so important not to mix your cloves with transactional objects. Do not throw the pouch in with coins, small change, or old bills. Do not use it as a pocket charm you move around all day. This placement is not meant for movement. It's meant for stillness. It's the energetic root system of your financial life. And roots don't wander. They anchor, they absorb, they build density, and from that density, real growth begins. Think of this not as a ritual, but as a design decision. You are designing a better relationship with your finances, not through pressure, but through presence. If you do this consistently, if you place your clove pouch with clarity, change it regularly, and pair it with clean financial space, you will begin to notice a shift. You won't feel desperate to check your bank account. You'll begin to trust that you're not losing track. Your attention will feel sharper. You'll forget less. You'll waste less. And that is not magic. That is the downstream result of upstream clarity. The pouch doesn't cause wealth, it trains your energy to respect it. And in a world where money responds to momentum, that kind of training creates its own gravity. So treat the space seriously, treat the cloves respectfully, and treat yourself as someone whose financial environment deserves thoughtfulness, not clutter. You're not asking for luck, you're setting up structure. And structure, when honored, becomes capacity. That's what this practice is building, quiet capacity. To hold, to grow, to stabilize. And in the long arc of a financial life, that's the difference between chasing prosperity and finally being able to keep it. Placement 3, personal field amplifier. Carrying energy is not always about what surrounds you. It's often about what touches you most closely. And in the case of financial energy, the most intimate places are the ones you interact with daily without even thinking. Your wallet and your pillow. These two spaces may seem unrelated, but they represent your active and passive connection to money. Your wallet is your daytime decision point, where transactions occur, where value is exchanged, where records are held. Your pillow is your nighttime reset station, where unresolved thoughts loop or release, where your subconscious runs free. Introducing 3 cloves into either of these locations is not about superstition. It is about designing subtle but consistent energetic signals to support your financial clarity and decision-making in both conscious and subconscious states. Let's begin with the wallet. The reason for placing cloves in a wallet has nothing to do with attracting wealth in a mystical sense. It's about reinforcing a message to yourself that you are aware of your value flow and willing to honor it with simplicity and structure. Cloves in this context act as symbolic anchors. They do not replace money. They protect the mental space where you manage it. To do this properly, select 3 whole, unbroken cloves with a strong, clear scent. Wrap them in a small piece of red fabric or red paper. Red, in energetic systems like Feng Shui, represents vitality, momentum, and protective charge. The red wrapper creates a field of containment around the cloves, preventing their energy from diffusing into the chaotic mix of everyday items. Placement is critical. Do not place the cloves where they'll touch coins, bills, debit cards, or receipts. That turns them into clutter. Instead, choose a side pocket or hidden zippered compartment, ideally one you rarely open. This isn't storage, it's symbolism. The cloves do not belong in the transactional part of your wallet. They belong in the stabilizing part. Their role is not to stimulate spending or saving. Their role is to remind your field of focus, to say, this space is clear, this space is aware. Over time, you may notice that your wallet becomes less messy. You may stop tossing random items into it. You may even feel a small shift when you open it. Less hesitation, less second guessing, more intentionality. These are not magical outcomes. They're behavioral ripples of energetic alignment. Now let's move to the pillow, the place where all unresolved thoughts eventually settle. For those experiencing financial overwhelm, overthinking, or decision fatigue, cloves under the pillow offer a different kind of support. Here, their function is not structural like in the wallet, but preparatory. During sleep, the subconscious mind replays, sorts, and reframes the day's input. If your waking hours were spent navigating uncertainty, job stress, income fluctuation, budgeting conflict, then your dreams often carry that chaos forward. Placing 3 cloves inside a clean, natural fiber pouch and tucking it beneath your pillow allows their scent and symbolism to provide a soft boundary, redirecting noisy thought loops into quieter, more constructive pathways. This technique is especially effective for entrepreneurs, freelancers, or anyone who carries the weight of their own financial outcomes. You go to bed, but your thoughts don't. They keep calculating, analyzing, regretting, projecting. And so sleep becomes light, interrupted, and emotionally dense. The cloves do not sedate, they signal. Their scent interacts with the limbic system, creating a subtle grounding sensation. Their presence under the pillow reminds the subconscious, you are safe, you are supported. Not everything must be solved tonight. This is your restoration space. You are allowed to prepare without pressure. When using the pillow method, ensure the pouch is clean, unmarked, and soft. Avoid synthetic cloth or decorative embroidery. This is not a gift, it is a tool. Place the pouch near the center of the pillow or toward the side closest to your crown, not directly under your neck, which would introduce physical discomfort. You should not feel it as you sleep, but you should know it's there. That knowing creates a bridge between conscious intention and unconscious recalibration. And again, replacement is key. Once the cloves begin to lose their scent, their symbolic charge fades. Usually within 7 days, you'll notice the aroma softens. When it does, thank the pouch silently, discard the cloves in a natural setting, not the kitchen bin, and refresh with new ones. Avoid overusing this practice. The goal is not to sleep on cloves every night of your life. The goal is to use this technique during periods of financial transition, overwhelm, or when your decision-making feels clouded. It's a way of inviting clarity into your inner processing space. Use it strategically. Let it work, then pause. Too much energetic signaling can become noise, even if the signal is helpful. Once you notice your mind settling, your clarity returning, or your sleep deepening, you may not need to continue. That's not abandonment, it's evolution. The practice served its purpose. You may be tempted to combine both placements, wallet and pillow, for maximum effect. This is not necessary and often not recommended. Each placement serves a different function. The wallet supports structural awareness. The pillow supports emotional reset. Choose based on what you most need. If your daytime spending feels erratic or unclear, begin with the wallet. If your nights are mentally crowded and directionless, begin with the pillow. Let the clove support a specific task, not a general hope. Precision is more powerful than ambition in energy work. And perhaps most importantly, treat these objects with intention. Don't toss them around. Don't let them get lost among clutter. Don't talk about them as tricks or hacks. They are symbols, quiet agreements you make with your environment and your own nervous system. Symbols can change behavior faster than rules. They bypass resistance. That's why 3 cloves, something so small, can hold so much influence. Not because they control outcomes, but because they shape readiness. And in the world of financial movement, readiness is often what separates delay from flow. So if your relationship with money feels like noise, don't look for bigger tools. Look for smaller corrections. 3 cloves, 1 red pouch, 1 zippered compartment, or 1 simple sleep. That's where reprogramming begins. Not with intensity, but with subtlety. And when you change your symbols, you change your state. When your state changes, so does your field. And when your field changes, so does your direction. Not by chance, by design. And in the quiet space under your pillow or the private compartment of your wallet, design is waiting, simple, focused, ready, just like you. Tory Burch's quiet ritual for lasting wealth. There's something powerful about how people at the highest levels of influence shape their environment to reflect their inner clarity. One such example comes from billionaire fashion mogul and media powerhouse Tory Burch. Known for building her brand from a modest kitchen table to a global empire, Burch has often spoken publicly about her disciplined focus, not only in business strategy, but in how she organizes the spaces that surround her. While many focus on her clothing or philanthropic work, what often goes unnoticed is the quiet way she cultivates intentional energy alignment in her personal life. In an interview during the early years of her brand's rise, Burch shared a practice she developed long before her name was on handbags and flagship stores. She kept a shallow lacquered box in the drawer beside her bed. Inside that box, she places symbolic items, not for decoration, not for manifesting, but as anchors. Each item corresponded to a single project she was nurturing or a challenge she was overcoming. One year, it was a handwritten number representing a sales goal. Another year, it was a photo of an empty boutique space in a neighborhood she'd envisioned expanding into. Every time she opened that drawer, she didn't stare at the box or meditate over it. She simply acknowledged its presence. And that simple, repeated exposure to order, to clarity, to her own encoded direction, quietly reprogrammed her internal narrative. This wasn't ritual, this was design thinking applied to her energy field. It was her way of putting language into space without needing words. She didn't light candles, she didn't believe in attraction. What she believed in was alignment. That when your physical environment reflects your internal priorities, your behavior begins to sharpen. Your discipline activates not through pressure, but through reinforcement. And that's exactly what you're doing when you place 3 cloves in a red pouch deep inside your wealth drawer. You're not asking the universe to deliver a payout. You're teaching your subconscious what it should regard as important, safe, structured. Like Burch's box, the pouch is not there to impress or decorate. It doesn't need to be opened often. Its value isn't in being used, its value is in being respected. It is a placeholder for structure. And financial success, long-term, scalable, emotionally healthy success, is built far more often on structure than on intensity. The clove pouch mirrors that principle. It's quiet, it's unseen, but it speaks, not to your guests, not to your accountant, not to your followers, but to the part of your brain that decides whether you're operating from chaos or from calm. Let's look even deeper into why this practice mirrors Burch's approach. In both cases, we're talking about symbolic spatial cues placed close to one's resting or private area, not in public view, not for performance. That's because prosperity isn't just public. In fact, it often begins in the invisible spaces. In the drawer you open every day without thinking. In the way you fold a receipt, in whether or not the energy of your financial tools your statements, your cash, your contracts, feels coherent or fractured. Tory Burch didn't credit her success to luck or timing. She credited it to alignment of design, of message, of product, and of space. And this is the real takeaway. Prosperity doesn't need you to hope harder. It needs you to remove noise, to define value, to orient your environment in a way that reinforces what you already know but often forget. Under stress, that money, like any force, responds best to clarity. The clove pouch, the symbolic drawer box, the handwritten figure tucked quietly near a resting space. These are not tools of belief. They're architectural lines within your emotional blueprint. They keep your focus from scattering. They give your habits a place to report back to. They ground your energy in a narrative that says, this is where direction lives. So when you take the time to place 3 cloves into a fabric pouch and you choose that pouch deliberately and you store it in a space connected to wealth, not spending, not needing, but holding, you are replicating a pattern used not just by ancient spatial systems, but by modern high performers who understand that attention is a currency of its own. Tory Burch may not have called it Feng Shui, she may never have used cloves, but the principle is identical. Encode your space with meaning, and your energy stops wandering. Prosperity, then, is not attracted. It is remembered. And once remembered, it is reinforced. That's what this practice does. And that's what her story shows us. Not that success comes from symbolic objects, but that symbolic objects, when used with purpose and discipline, reinforce the internal conditions that success requires. Quiet structure, repeated clarity, emotional efficiency, and above all, a container for intention that is stable, unmoving, and unbothered by noise. Because in that stillness, progress becomes visible. One drawer, one pouch, one decision at a time. That's how real wealth is built. And it begins often right where you least expect it, beneath a folded cloth, behind a closed drawer, at the edge of your everyday routine. Unseen, but unmistakable. Quiet, but unshakable. Not magic, just direction. Anchored, decided, and yours to keep. Where not to place cloves. Cloves are not decorative fillers. They are precise energy tools, and like any tool, their placement dictates their effectiveness. When placed thoughtfully, they signal clarity, reinforce intention, and stabilize energetic flow in your environment. But when scattered carelessly or left in the wrong energetic zones, they do the opposite. They confuse the field. They lose symbolic coherence. And instead of creating structure, they create static. The first and most overlooked mistake is placing cloves in bathrooms or kitchens. These spaces are not neutral. In energetic systems, bathrooms symbolize outflow, drainage, waste, release. Kitchens, while central to nourishment, are constantly in a state of transformation and consumption. Both rooms carry energies of breakdown, water flushes, fire cooks, waste exits. When you place cloves in these zones, their warm anchoring properties are overridden by ambient turbulence. They don't charge. They dissipate. Their fragrance fades faster. Their symbolic clarity is compromised. If you're trying to support prosperity, clarity, or directional energy, placing cloves near a toilet or sink is like planting seeds in sand. It won't hold. Another major issue is positioning cloves on top of clutter or amongst unrelated items. Think of the symbolic field like a sentence. Every item is a word. If your sentence includes broken chargers, expired coupons, pens with no ink, and a clove tucked in somewhere between, the message becomes incoherent. The energetic field interprets disorder as indecision. And cloves, when surrounded by such noise, cannot override the signal. They become one more forgotten object in a pile of forgotten intentions. Energetically, clutter acts like static. Even if the clove is placed with care, its ability to stabilize or activate financial clarity will be muted by the surrounding confusion. This applies especially to drawers, desktops, nightstands, and entrance areas. If these zones are messy and unfiltered, a clove won't fix it. You must fix the field before asking the object to hold energy. This is not superstition. It's spatial literacy. Next is the mistake of placing cloves near electronics. Phones, modems, routers, laptops, wireless chargers. Electronics are active energy machines. They pulse with invisible communication cycles, radiating electromagnetic interference and carrying open loops. These devices are not inherently negative, but they're constantly cycling information. Their presence introduces motion. Cloves, by contrast, function best when surrounded by grounded stillness. They absorb, stabilize, signal. They do not compete. When placed beneath or adjacent to electronic devices, cloves are subjected to continuous energetic agitation. It's like trying to meditate in a nightclub. The object can no longer perform its symbolic role because the field refuses to settle. This principle also applies to speaker systems, plugged-in lamps, or anything that cycles on and off during the day or night. Even if the device is off, its history of pulsing information has already encoded the space. If you must place cloves in a room with electronics, ensure they are stored in enclosed containers, drawers, or shielded zones far from energetic movement. Another common mistake is placing cloves near sources of smoke or excessive heat, on stove edges, near fireplaces, next to incense burners, or close to radiators. The only time cloves should encounter fire is during a deliberate clove-burning ritual meant to clear space. Outside of that, heat scrambles their field. Remember that cloves are pungent, volatile aromatics. Their strength comes from their essential oils, which are both fragrant and structurally delicate. When exposed to constant warmth or sudden smoke, their molecules break down. The scent burns off, the structure warps. Symbolically, this is the energetic equivalent of premature depletion. What should have been a slow-release stabilizer becomes a flash of scattered signal. If you're tempted to place them near candles or scent warmers for aesthetic purposes, consider instead using clove oil in a diffuser. That is a separate practice. But for spatial anchoring, keep the whole cloves cool, shaded, and undisturbed. Finally, perhaps the most subtle mistake of all is quantity without intention. Scattering cloves around your house as if the sheer number of them will amplify their power is counterproductive. Symbolic tools require containment. Clarity is diluted by excess. One clove in a focused pouch carries more energetic structure than 20 cloves thrown into random corners. There is no benefit to placing cloves in every room, on every windowsill, or in every drawer. That's not cultivation, that's confusion. The subconscious reads that as desperation, not direction. The power of this practice lies in its restraint. 3 cloves in a targeted space are sufficient to shift the energy. More than that begins to clutter the signal. Precision amplifies. Excess diffuses. Your goal is not to fill your home with clove energy. It's to thread specific frequencies into your space like acupuncture points. Subtle, potent, effective. So let's review the most critical zones to avoid. Bathrooms, spaces of outflow and decay. Kitchens, spaces of consumption and fire. Cluttered drawers and chaotic corners, fields of confused symbolism. Electronics, zones of agitation and cognitive overload. Heat or smoke sources, environments of premature energetic burn. And finally, uncontrolled quantity, an approach that sacrifices clarity for volume. Avoid these not because of myth, but because of logic. Symbolic design works when the object, the space, and the intention are in agreement. When even one of those is missing, the field fractures. You don't want your clove to scream inside a hurricane. You want it to hum in stillness, to remind your space that structure lives here, direction lives here, and clarity is always more powerful when it's placed exactly where it belongs. Not everywhere, just precisely enough. Final, you didn't just place cloves in your drawer, by your entrance, or beneath your pillow. You placed a message into your space, a silent but precise declaration that says, I'm ready to relate to money differently, that I'm no longer chasing abundance with noise, but welcoming it through structure. These cloves aren't magic. They aren't charms. They don't manipulate fate or bend the universe to your will. What they do is much more honest. They reduce static. They clear out the emotional clutter and help you reframe your space as an ally to your intention, not a passive backdrop to your struggle. When we talk about energy, we often imagine something mysterious or unreachable, but symbolic energy is different. It's visible, it's tactile, it's practical. The moment you designate 3 cloves to hold a position in your field, you're reminding yourself that wealth isn't built on intensity, it's built on clarity. You're not asking the cloves to bring you money. You're asking them to hold the tone while you make better decisions, while you organize more cleanly, while you act from a place that's not reactive but calm. That's the shift, that's the work. And it doesn't require belief, it requires design. When your environment stops contradicting your intentions, progress feels less forced. And when you treat money like movement instead of pressure, you start to notice space where there was friction, simplicity where there was confusion, and flow where before there was just waiting. That's the real purpose of these practices, not to deliver miracles, but to remove noise so you can move smarter, so you can breathe easier, so your thoughts stop looping and your habits start aligning. This isn't about rituals, it's about rhythm, and you're learning to set the tone. So as you look at the placements you've made, your entrance, your drawer, your pillow, ask yourself not, will this work? But what signal does this now send me every day? Because energy is less about force, more about frequency. And frequency is set through repetition, through simplicity, through clarity. And those 3 cloves, if placed with care, are enough to shift that tone. You're not placing 3 cloves to beg the universe. You're placing them to remind yourself that money is movement and clarity is the compass. Everything else grows from there. If this video offered you a new way of thinking, or even a small moment of quiet insight, I'd love to hear from you. Share this with someone who might need a more grounded relationship with their financial space. Leave a comment below about your experience, your thoughts, or your own symbolic practices. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to New Day Mindfulness. Your support helps me reach our next milestone, 2,000 followers, so I can continue sharing calm, clear, and practical energy content with you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for choosing clarity over chaos. Let's keep growing, one grounded symbol at a time.